Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we have the pleasure of hearing from a boss babe who designs active wear and runs her own businesses after working as an environmental health and safety engineer in aerospace, all while being a 24/7 mom. How are you doing, Barbara Kris?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm so happy to be having you on the show today. And, I know you've listened to a few of the episodes yourself, so I have to know, what's the one thing that you're always thinking right before you step on stage?
I'm so glad you asked that because there's this thing that my boyfriend and I have. And, he's been with me, from my first NPC show as an amateur to my last, pro show. And he has this thing he tells me. He says, show up and show out. And it's just basically to have fun. Like to go up there, like the music is going. Obviously one of the things I do is I do envision my whole routine in my head. Really I like to envision everything, like how I'm going to go through it. But really it's just to have fun and just have a blast up there. All the work's been done already, so it's just time to have fun. And like he says, he always tells me right before I go on stage, just show up and show out.
I love it. That's awesome. It's so cool when you actually get to step on stage and have fun. Like, I know personally sometimes all that build up right before stage, I'm like, my legs are shaking, everything's kind of like hitting you. And then as soon as you get right before the curtain and you hear your name, it's just like, boom. It's almost like game face on, like, let's go, let's have fun. And it really helps.
It does. I know. And I can relate to that jittery leg feeling. It's like that, you feel like the baby giraffe type feeling, like your legs just like, oh.
So funny. Like, I literally, like, my first show after my first show, I call it my first show practically because it's like starting over again. But I was so shaky and I thought maybe it's just because I haven't done this. And then my last one, I was shaky too. And I was like, okay, I guess this is just a thing now. But I'm curious, do you have plans to compete again soon?
I do. In fact, I just sent progress pictures to my coaches, and you kind of alluded to it. I'm in the process of building my businesses and my brand, and also as a mom, I've had to shift some of my priorities. But I love the stage. I love the sport. I love to compete, and I knew that when I get back on stage, it's been close to a year since I've been on stage, and I knew that it had to be something that was very meaningful to me. Not that any show isn't meaningful, but this time around, I think with everything going on, it really had to be something that pulled at me. And so I'm looking at right now the Muscle Contest International Show in the Philippines in September.
Wow.
So yeah, super cool. And I can just share why that's so special is that, so I'm half Filipino. My dad's Filipino and from the Philippines. And I've never been back there to visit our family that we have here. They've always come out here to visit. And so they, they're aware that I'm, looking to do that show, and they're so dang excited for me to come out there and meet them at a venue like this. Like, how cool is that?
That's so amazing. I love that they're so supportive of you too.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
because you said that part of like the reason why you stepped away was because you're a mom and some priorities shifted. Did your family like have any reactions to you deciding to go back to competing, or are they fully on just excited?
That's a good question. Now, that I've been, in the sport now since 2014 was my first show. So now, we're going on 4 years, and they've adjusted, to basically, this is a lifestyle for me. And so they're supportive now when I decide to go back, and hit the stage. But, just recently when I said I had to shift a bit was, my son, he's 13, and, he's in middle school and was needing some help with, his studies. I was launching these businesses and really feeling like, not that I had to pick and choose between one or the other, but I really had to adjust my priorities because I felt like I wasn't giving my best to the areas that really needed it at that time. And so it was just smart for me to not just fall off the map as far as, working out and bodybuilding. I had to maintain that, but I had to shift, my resources, like especially my time, to where it was needed the most. So that's most recently, but no, long story short is now when I decide to get back on stage, my family is really supportive, which wasn't always that way.
So true. And a lot of people actually would probably not have the entrepreneurial spirit flowing within them either. And I know that's something that you have. Because of this, there can be a lot of doubts and negative outlooks on different decisions and choices that someone like you has made in leaving a steady job that you loved and were passionate about to pursue something that your soul really craved and craves even more in health, fitness, and nutrition coaching, as well as activewear design. So similar to competing, we get feedback from the people in our life that we love. I'm curious, like, what kind of action or like mindset did you have to take to remain confident in your decision and also actually grow your business to almost justify it? Although I feel like our soul is justification enough, but you know what I mean, like for other people, what they would think.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that because, and that's just something that evolves with time. I have to tell you, when I decided to leave my career in aerospace, granted, it was with a lot of thought, and there was some things that led up to it that made it a little bit easier for me. I don't want to say easy, but easier. Aerospace is a very cyclical industry. You hear all the time where there's big hiring episodes, and then you hear oftentimes these companies laying off hundreds, at a time. Unfortunately, I was never in that boat, but our company as a whole did get hit. And so I felt like, we were doing, 5 jobs each. It was so, we were so lean, our staff. And at that time, they opened up what's called a voluntary separation program, which basically means that you could volunteer to leave and you'd get a, great severance package. And long story short, even with respect to my bosses not wanting me to leave, I left, and I left under that program. And just like you kind of mentioned, when I did leave, I'll tell you this, the first 6 months to maybe close to a year, I thought I made a huge mistake because it was like, wow, so I made this move. I know what I wanted to do, what my dreams of, designing activewear, of being, in the fitness industry. I knew what I wanted to do, but then all of a sudden the roadmap was just like blank, And so I had a hard time with that. Honestly, it was tough. I thought I made a mistake. I actually started looking to see if maybe I could find a comparable position closer to home, because I was actually commuting in total maybe 2 hours a day, which was another reason why I needed something different. It was just sucking my time, out of my day every day. And so you can imagine, the input and the negative talk from friends and family who, that they love you and they want the best for you, but sometimes the advice that they have is extremely detrimental because they are the ones you love, right?
Yes.
And those are the ones you go to for, the shoulder to cry on or whatever. And when the first thing that they tell you is, well, maybe you need to go back. Maybe, this isn't for you. Maybe it's because it's hard. Maybe it's telling you that you need to go back to what you were comfortable at. And I heard that so much that it got to the point where I had to literally, not so much cut them out, but I had to extremely limit the kind of input that they gave me. Because, you got to realize that when it's your goal and it's your dream and you're really comfortable with the reasons that and the choices that you've made, you have to, it's something that I've built up with time and then just dealing with this for, long periods, that you just have to build up that confidence to feel like, I don't have to justify these choices or come from a defensive perspective. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to work hard, and yeah, it's going to be hard. But for me, this is what feeds me. This is what fulfills me. And eventually the people that love you and support you, if they really do, they'll come around and they'll be there.
I love that insight. That's awesome, because recently I left my job to be fully 100% independent in my own business. And to so many people, it's crazy. Are you kidding? You don't know that that's going to be steady for you. There's money that has to be made. There's things that have to be done in life that a lot of people don't believe can be done just purely by following passion and intuition and what your gut is telling you is going to be right for you. And I've been experiencing some of those feelings myself in regard to it would be so much easier, but at the same time, it's not, it would be in the sense of you get a paycheck. It's not easier in the sense of the feeling you get every single day not living on your purpose. And I could totally relate. It's when you know what you need to do, there's no need to justify it, because your soul matters. At least I believe your soul matters so much more. It's all we really have. Our body is this amazing vehicle, obviously, to transport our soul through this life. But at the end of the day, we have to make our soul happy and give it the energy and the fulfillment that it requires to actually enjoy each moment. So I'm inspired by your journey, and a big reason why I asked is more selfish reasons, because I wanted to see your take on something that I was going through recently. But that's really cool, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to benefit from hearing that as well, because too many of us, I think, or too many people really do almost shut their soul up and say, you know what, I'm going to go the comfortable route, or I'm going to go the route that was conditioned into me. So another thing that kind of relates to that is I'd love to know, what do you think is the first step that someone who does feel like leaving, or does feel like they need something more that fuels them, and they have a passion, they have a mission, they know what they want to do. Maybe it's not in fitness, maybe it's with another type of business, but they need to get started on the process, and they haven't had the courage or the confidence, right, to actually leave and know that that's okay to do that. What do you think is the first step that they should actually take in pursuing that entrepreneurial journey?
Oh, another great question. God, there's so many things that are swirling through my head, but the one thing that I think helped me the most was creating and making a schedule, almost like a to-do list. There are habits that you have to create and almost force yourself to do daily. You have to be your own boss, your own motivator, your own everything. And the sooner you can get yourself on a schedule where you're basically chipping at this huge rock, every day, little by little, the things that you need to do to get done, whatever that to-do list is, like you said, depending on what they're striving to do as far as their passion is creating that habit, that work ethic, that even when you don't feel like it, even when you're getting negative feedback from your friends and people are doubting you and making you feel horrible, setting up that work ethic to get through that. Because the more you just work at it every day, every day, every day, the further you'll get. And from experience, I remember hearing that being told to me when I was feeling like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm beyond nuts. Why am I doing this? And people that I looked to and were inspired by, that's what they would tell me, is like, just keep going, keep doing what you do. Always learn, always, be able to look at yourself objectively and just grow and work daily. And here's another thing, because you did say something about when you're kind of feeling low and doubting yourself and how you kind of push yourself to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I noticed, that the moment I determined and told myself, okay, yes, I have a bachelor's and master's degree, in environmental and occupational health. And yes, I can absolutely go back to that industry if I needed. But when I told myself that that was not my backup plan was just me and sticking to my guns, then I went fully in.
Mm-hmm.
It was like sometimes when you have that almost like that safety net there, then only like one foot's in the door. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you got to put it 2 feet in there. You got to almost take that safety net away and just like, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself and just go like all in and kill it,
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Seriously, like I cannot even begin to express how much I love that. Like there should not be a safety net or a plan B. Like plan B is plan A. If plan A doesn't work
Yep.
out, do it again. Like I will never understand why anyone would even want to have a plan B when I feel like if you have a plan B, you're not living in your passion. Like you haven't actually found it. So
Yep.
I love that you said that. I also love that you mentioned the to-do list. I'm a freaking to-do list freak. Like, give me a to-do list, give me a calendar, and I'm on it. So I think that that's something that a lot of people can benefit from. Even if you're listening to this going like, I'm not really into that to-do list thing, or rather day by day. Like, it just doesn't work like that. Like you said, one of the key points that I hope everyone takes away was like, imagine like this big rock that you're just chipping away at. And then of course, through the negativity, there's no plan B. Just go all in, no more toe dipping,
Mm-hmm.
just go for it. So,
Yep.
I think also in consideration of your amazing journey through entrepreneurship, there are, I should say, rituals that come with this aside from just action taking. Obviously, both of us are really keen on mindset work. I love your Instagram and your willingness to just share so much of your mindset and your beliefs. And I myself like to journal or invest time into some other form of aligning to my next level identity. So what are some of those things that you journal about, or maybe do you have a journaling ritual?
Let's see. I like this. I like all these questions are great.
We're so
Definitely.
connected.
Yeah. I definitely like waking up early. That's just something that I think that I've always done, and it works for me. I like to get up, but it feels like before everyone else's. That quiet time. That quiet time is priceless to me. It's when I can actually look again at the to-do list, journal. I like to read, whether it's books or quotes that affirm, my belief in myself. I mean, I really believe in, I'll come across the quote that I love and I'll say it to myself, over and over and over. It's just that daily affirmation that just really feeds my mind with that positive vibe. It's like, you can't do that yourself, like first thing in the morning, to just really fill your mind with these great thoughts of yourself and these feelings of success. I mean, it's only a matter of time before you step out and start doing your daily things and you're out and about. There's a lot of negativity out there, right? I mean, you're just bombarded all the time. And I feel, for me, I do my best when I start early with not only feeding my body with good food or, the right food, but feeding my mind. Even the things that I read or listen to, just and podcasts. I like listening to different podcasts, and everybody likes Gary Vee and these great motivational speakers and people that are out there. I do that too. I do that when I do my cardio. A lot of times it's not so much music anymore. It's these motivational speakers and people that just, I don't know, like they light my soul on fire, to keep going.
Totally. That's so powerful. There's so many different ways to connect with a high vibration and get yourself in an energetic state that's going to actually support you in achieving your goals. And it sounds like you really find ways to do that throughout the day. And that's awesome. It's amazing what that can really do for people. I think sometimes we can get stuck feeling like, well, I have to have some sort of guide or I have to have some sort of strict way of doing this, and you really don't. Like Barbara says, like she gets up and she just makes sure that she fuels her mind with the positivity that she needs to continue to affirm beliefs about herself. And that's so cool. Like anyone can do that any day should they prioritize it and make the time for it. And I think everyone is worth the extra 5, 10, even 30 minutes, no matter what, you are worth that extra time for yourself. And once you believe you're worth that time for yourself, that becomes easier to take for yourself as well. And you've achieved a lot in your life.
Amen.
Yeah, right?
Uh-huh.
You really have achieved a lot in your life. I think that's something that, like, if I was listening, and I am listening, and I'd be taking notes on that, like it's a huge, huge thing. Like this is something anyone can implement. And I mean, going to even just your pro card win. A lot of people
Yeah.
feel like achieving their pro card is an impossible feat, but you achieved it literally 1 year. I believe I read this correctly. 1 year after winning an overall title at a show at the age of 42.
Yes.
And it's like, what switched in your head, or what mindset did you take on to remind yourself that it truly is never too late and it's never impossible?
Let's see. Okay, so I've always been an active person my whole life. Always been active. I've had a competitive spirit, and so as I moved through my fitness journey, I would start with a friend. We'd go to the gym together, and then we started working with a trainer, and then we started doing boot camps, and we just got more and more into it. And I finally got to the point where it was around 2013, I guess, like 5 years ago, maybe more than that. I was approached by someone who was a bikini competitor, and at that time, I didn't know much about it. And I remember going to see her practice her posing routine, and I was just like, wow, like what is this? It was just so different for me. But at the same time, I was so intrigued by it because I thought, this is amazing. This, for me, it got me in the part where I'm thinking I can actually do this. This is a great challenge for me. And I think on a personal level, around that time was when I was going through the process of my divorce. I really felt like I needed something for me, something that affirmed me and my own abilities and what I could do, regardless of the fact that I just hit 40, at that time, or my late 30s. And so I decided, I started looking around and, looking into it. And I knew off the bat that, I would need some help. I would need coaches for this. And when I found the coaches that I still have to this day, so they coached me for my first show all the way through my last pro show, and they were prepping me now. So I knew that I had to find coaches that I could relate to, not just as an athlete, but as a person, because for me, it was really personal at that point, as far as I needed to just conquer this feeling that I had, that, or just remind myself that, I could do whatever it is I wanted to do. And so I went for it. And like you said, after that show, it was such a whirlwind. I had so much fun, and I didn't know where it was going to take me at that time. I just knew I loved it. I loved what it did for me personally, and I just kept doing it because I just felt great. I just felt great about it, and I just kept going for it. And thinking about it now, I competed in, I think my first show was in October of 2014. I went to my first national show in September of 2015, and that's where I won, my pro card. And It was an absolute whirlwind. And to this day, it's a dream. I absolutely love this sport. I love I love everything about it.
That's so cool. I love that. And you and Ingrid Romero are so close, it seems, and just some of the things that are online on Instagram and stuff. Did that develop while you were being coached by she and Joe?
Absolutely. They're 100%. I remember looking into coaches, and there's some great coaches out there, but there was something about them, especially I think Ingrid being, for me, being a mom and being able to relate to her journey was something that I knew was a great fit. And, it's really special when you can find, I'm so blessed. I've over time have built a very strong group around me, support group around me. It's small, but it's solid.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe and Ingrid are right there. They're two of the pillars in my group.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember so many things that they tell me, but this is just this, I have to share with you the caliber of the kind of people they are. Is that when they knew that I decided, okay, I'm gonna stick at the sport. I'm gonna go for my pro card, not just for the pro card's sake, but for some of the great platform that it would provide for me and what I was choosing to do. But I remember, I'm pretty sure it was Joe telling me that, winning a pro card is amazing, or winning a show or a first place or whatever it may be, it's all great. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change who you are. It doesn't change your life. You win your pro card, and the next day you wake up, you still have your life to deal with, your stress, whatever it is. It's still there. It's not going to just magically make things go away. And I think for those people out there that are striving for, the top 5 and the pro card and all that, I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome. We all want to do great, right? That's we're all striving for that. But if we can just keep in perspective that at the end of the day, you still have your life to live. And I learned quick from them that as much and as hard as I wanted to earn that pro card, I knew that the pro card wasn't going to define me, that I was going to use that as a platform to basically do what I love, and reach the people that I want to reach and help the people that I want to help. And that was just another aspect of that. It didn't all of a sudden make it happen for me. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Like it's not necessarily an end all be all or a solution to any problem that could be occurring in your life or a pathway, regardless of earning it or not. You still have to put in the work on the front end as well. At least that's what I'm getting from that. And I've heard the same thing from Ingrid. Like, she's like, what people don't always know is that just because you get your pro card doesn't mean you're all of a sudden going to blow up on Instagram, or your business is going to take off, or everything's just going to fall into place magically. She was very adamant about the fact that, like, some girls just want it, but it really doesn't. At the end of the day, like, it doesn't define you. It's just something that you've achieved, which is so true. My interpretation of that is, like, you got to know why you really, really want it in order to actually have a meaning behind it. And it seems like you were really driven by a positive and powerful meaning, and you've been able to capitalize on it. And that's really cool. And now knowing that, and knowing that that piece of advice was really helpful for you, what was it that so, like, what were some shifts you did notice when you got your pro card, that maybe you feel like you wouldn't have noticed had you not received it?
Let's see. I think had I not received my pro card, it would have been, to be completely honest, it would have been a blow, right? It would have been a hard blow at my ego, at my confidence. It maybe would have, especially at that time, it was, 2015. I'm still new now in this whole entrepreneurial
Mm-hmm.
journey. But then I would like talk about green, like really green, and still trying to just fight through my own self-doubt. Um, I would imagine that it would have been a huge obstacle for me to get over, as far as just dealing with that kind of disappointment and pain, and really starting to question myself as far as the choices that I had made. Um, I think sometimes too, because obviously there were some shows in between my first show and winning my pro card, and I went from a show where I just killed it to a couple shows where I did okay, but not as great as I wanted.
Mm.
And sometimes that's a good thing, because I tell you that that's when things get put in perspective for you. It really forces you to look at, why you do the things that you do. And sometimes it's a harder pill to swallow. And I'm sure I still would have gone through that whole process of doing it. It just would have been a lot harder. But it really forced me to look at, okay, well, yeah, you may not have gotten the results you wanted, but do you still want that goal that you're going after? And if the
Mm.
answer is yes, which it was for me, then I had to keep pushing. I just had to, really just pull up my big girl pants and keep going. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if that really answers the question,
No,
but
it
on
does.
the yeah, but on the positive side, it does. It does lead to, some great opportunities if you're willing to put the work in and, you know, step out of your comfort zone and interact with people that maybe, you're not used to interacting with. There's
Mm.
obviously some great positives for that. And, like, in fact, the fact that I'm planning to go to the Philippines to do a show there, I mean, that wouldn't be possible. Or, I mean, it's still possible, but it wouldn't be as I don't know, as like fabulous,
Mm-hmm.
as going as a pro. I mean, that is just unreal. I mean, talk about a dream, and talk about the sport of bodybuilding going beyond just bodybuilding, and really, hitting home, for a lot of people, especially me.
That's so true, and that's so beautiful. I think you really highlighted the fact that like earning it really substantiated your confidence and your belief in all the work that you've done. It was like all in fruition, and now here you are. You're able to go and really represent all that hard work and who you are in the sport and what you've become. Like it's really beautiful. It's amazing, and you should be so proud. And I think everyone strives to have that feeling as well. At least a lot of competitors I know, they're like, well, why continue to compete? And then again, a lot of the girls I talk to are on Team Edge, so we're all pretty competitive, but it's like, why continue
Hmm.
to compete if you don't really want to take it that far? And I think that there are people listening who might I just like it, and you don't have to compete for your pro card. But if you do, like, make
Hmm.
sure there's a good reason for it. And even if competing, let's say competing, you never won a pro card. This is something that I literally just like, I feel like I just downloaded, but like if competing didn't have a pro card, would you still compete? It's like, I feel like if
Hmm.
if you can answer that question positively, yes, then you probably really like competing. But if it's a no, then it's
Right.
like, well, why do you just want that card then? So um
Hmm.
would you still compete if there wasn't a pro card?
Absolutely. I think it's just, like I said, it's, I love it. I love the rigor of it. I mean, I know it's hard sometimes, but I think that once you get a taste of it, at least for me, it's hard to stop. It's like, it's very addicting, and the rush is
True.
amazing. I love the challenge. I love that, you know, learning my body, how what works for it and what doesn't work so well. And then as far as a lifestyle, I tell you this, that um, getting into bodybuilding and getting into it competitively has taught me so much about even how to live, or how my lifestyle should be, even during off or improvement season. Like, I don't just go crazy and just eat whatever the heck I want. I'm still
Mhm.
pretty regimented, and I watch what I eat, and I'm consistently trained. And that is, for me, is a blessing, from the sport, and I love that part of it. I love maintaining, my health and being in great shape and feeling good and being active and being able to do a lot of things that a lot of people can't do, and when it's time for me to go on stage, even if it wasn't for, winning or if there wasn't a pro card to win, I definitely would, because I love it.
I can tell. And the lifestyle really is what makes the difference and seals the deal. And it makes competing a lot easier too, because then you're really just like refining the details rather than starting all over and over and over again. It's like when you really love the lifestyle, the competition, it's like another day. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into prep, and it's a mental and
Mhm.
emotional journey as well, but we grow and learn so much, and that's, like you said, one of the coolest parts. So I want to finish this off by asking you, what's one piece of advice that you would give someone who is looking to begin competing or is currently competing and working towards that pro card?
So one piece of advice, I think it would be, and we touched on it a little bit ago, would be to really know your why, like why it is you're making this choice. If you can answer that, honestly, and be okay with knowing that, your resource of time and money and effort, and a lot of times, potentially, alienating yourself from the people you love because it's not for everybody. Um, if you know your why and you're okay with it, then that's the first step. And that's what I would say would be my first bit of advice about that.
I love it. Yes, we need to know our why, and I especially like that you
Yes.
expanded on that, and took it even a step further as to make sure that regardless of what that why is, you're okay with it, and regardless of what circumstance and complications it can bring, to still stick with it. And I love that. And I'd love for everyone to be able to let you know how much they loved it as much as I have loved it. So can you let them know
Yay!
where they can find you?
On Instagram, I'm at Barbarella_IFBB Pro. You can find me there, as well as my activewear account is Black Activewear. And I also have a website. It's www.blackactivewear.com. And that's about it for right now.
Awesome. Yes, you guys. And there's going to be all these links in the show notes, as well as I believe she has a website launching very soon that I'll probably eventually even include there as well. But at least connect with her online on social media, because then I can get you guys all the links, and so can she on her social pages. So with that being said, you guys check out www.celestial.fit/podcast, search her name. You can listen there, or of course, make sure that you subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes so more people can hear this awesome message. And with that all being said, I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this podcast. Just make it awesome.